Starting at Paris Saint-Germain Career Mode in FC25 under Luis Enrique offers the chance to build on a squad that has undergone major transformation over the past 3 seasons. PSG have shifted away from their superstar-heavy model, instead focusing on signing the best young talents in world football, specifically targeting French prospects to create a more sustainable and balanced squad. With the team currently in the Champions League final and potentially on the verge of becoming champions of Europe, the foundations are already in place. While a few players are expected to depart, they'll be replaced with exciting young signings who fit both the club's long-term vision and Enrique's tactical demands. This is how you can start a realistic career mode with PSG in FC25. When it comes to the on-field actions in the game, getting Luis Enrique's tactics right will be a key feature to building a realistic career mode. The good news is the tactics have already been created and are ready for you to go ahead and implement into your game. Enrique's philosophy is built around fluid positional play, high pressing, and dominating possession with quick vertical combinations. Now, Enrique's side has often played in a 4-3-3, but within that system there are certain player roles that have changed and alternated throughout the course of the season. So that is why I've gone ahead and created both the 4-3-3A version and the 4-3-3B version, both of which you'll be able to see in the tactics video that I've already made, as well as the YouTube shorts. And a key feature to these 4-3-3 systems is their unique ability to create a 3-2-4-1 structure, which does create numerical overloads in the midfield and successfully allow for PSG to dominate the opposition. But of course, as we've seen this season, a lot of PSG's attacking intent has stemmed from the wide zones, and these two tactical setups are designed to get the best out of the wide players. So replicating the manager's style and philosophy into the career mode can add an extra layer of realism, allowing the team to play just as the Spanish manager intends in real life. As I've already mentioned in this video, PSG's transfer strategy changed 3 years ago. They're no longer looking to buy huge superstar talents, but they are looking to incorporate young prospects into their team that they can help grow and develop. And an area that they've greatly improved is their youth academy. So I've gone ahead and scouted in 3 areas of the world, the first being Senegal, the second being France, and the other being Switzerland. There are a handful of other countries that PSG are also scouting in, and 2 that stem to mind are Canada and the US. But for the first youth scout that will be looking for talent in Senegal, I've instructed him to find a fullback as well as a defensive midfielder. Now the 2 fullbacks should have the attacking wingback role plus, whilst the defensive midfielder should be set to a deep lying playmaker. For scout number 2, he will be looking for the best young talent in France. It makes the most sense that PSG will want to bring in the best young French talents and help develop these young players and either incorporate them into the first team squad or sell them on for a major profit later on down the line. The 3 positions that I've elected to target are centre back, central midfielder, and both wingers, with the scout looking for a ball playing defender for the centre back, a box to box midfielder, and an inside forward. And the 3rd scout will be sent to Switzerland, where he'll be looking for a central midfielder as well as a striker. In order for these players to fit into Luis Enrique's system, the central midfielder should be box to box, whilst the striker should be a false 9. Onto the Paris Saint-Germain first team squad, and there are currently 34 players in it. Now in this segment of the video, I like to run through the entirety of the squad and discuss the various players and their futures. It's also important to note that this is not based on my opinion, but more so the reports that have come out from the club, as well as the surrounding news outlets talking about the various players and who might stay and who might go. But of course, if you are a PSG fan, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section, where we can strike up a conversation about the various topics. Kicking things off with the 3 goalkeepers in the first team, and there's Donnarumma, Safnov, as well as Tenas. Now I have added him onto the shortlist to possibly be moved on in the upcoming window, as he is a player that hasn't featured for Luis Enrique, and as per reports, he doesn't have much of a future under the Spanish manager. And with 2 better goalkeeping options in front of him, it makes total sense for both the player as well as the club to part ways in the upcoming summer window. Now in terms of Safnov, he's been a fantastic option as a backup, consistently reliable when called upon, and has been able to step up when required for his team. Of course, the number 1 spot is currently being held down by Gianluigi Donnarumma, and I don't think that much will change. However, there are reports stating that he could be on the move either in this summer window or the next. There are teams like Juventus or Man United or even Manchester City that are looking at the Italian shot stopper, and I do think that if the price is right, Enrique and the PSG board wouldn't mind selling him. However, he has been in some scintillating form this season, specifically in the Champions League, and I think that that's what's garnered a lot of attention onto him, which in turn is a very good thing for both PSG as well as Donnarumma. There is currently only 1 left back in the first team squad for PSG. However, Lucas Hernandez can also be deployed out wide down the left flank. But the only natural left back in the squad is Nuno Mendes. And this season, the Portuguese left back has been nothing short of world class. You could probably argue that he's been the best left back in Europe, and he's shown that on countless occasions in big matches, locking up both Mohamed Salah as well as Bukayo Saka, while still being able to progress forward and add to the attacking elements of this PSG side. At the start of the season, contract negotiations between the player and the club had stalled, but if I'm not mistaken, it was either late December or early January, where the two parties were able to meet and successfully handle the negotiations, extending him for a further 2 or 3 years. So I don't think that he will be going anywhere in the future. The centre-back position in the team is an area that you wouldn't expect would need some work. However, there are certain players that might be set to leave in the upcoming window. So there are 8 players for this position, as there's El Hanak, Axel Tate, Marquinhos, Hernandez, Kimpembe, Skriniar, Pacho, and Lucas Beraldo, who by the way can also be deployed as a left back. Now in terms of the Brazilian and Pacho, I don't think that they will be going anywhere anytime soon. They're both fantastic left-footed centre-backs that are brilliant on the ball, as well as being able to read the game and help PSG build their attacks out from the back. Whereas Milan Skriniar, on the other hand, most probably will be sold in the upcoming summer window, as he didn't really fit into the ethos of this PSG side and couldn't deliver what Luis Enrique was demanding from his centre-backs. So he was loaned out to Fenerbahce, and I do think that he will be sold eventually. And then there's Kimpembe, who unfortunately a few years ago ruptured his Achilles tendon and has since been recovering. Now if I'm not mistaken, this season he's played a handful of games, which has been very good for both him and his career. Now I don't see the French left-sided centre-back departing the club, at least not yet, as I do think that the manager will want to give him a bit more game time and see whether he can fit into his system. Another player that I don't see exiting the club in the upcoming window is Lucas Hernandez, who like I mentioned with Beraldo can also be deployed out wide as a left back, which can be quite handy when Nuno Mendes does need a break inevitably down that left hand side. He too has picked up his fair share of injuries over his career and even this season, but I don't think that that's enough for PSG to want to part ways with the French international. As for Marquinhos, the club captain, it's a strange situation, as I don't think that Luis Enrique would want to sell him, and I think that he's been a very good player whenever he has featured for the club. But there have been certain reports that have stated that if the offer is right, just like with Donnarumma, PSG might look to execute a deal for the centre-back. And there have been some loose numbers floating around between 45 to 50 million, could be the sweet spot that would entice PSG into trying to negotiate a deal for the Brazilian centre-back to depart the club. Now in terms of Axel Tate, his deal is set to expire soon, and the board have no intentions of trying to extend him, so he'll be exiting on a free deal. In terms of El Hammach, I think that he is very much a part of the first team future plans, so possibly looking to loan him out or just using him as squad depth could be the best option for him. In terms of the right backs, there's Zagu, Nordi Mukiele, as well as Hakimi. Now in terms of Hakimi, he will not be going anywhere. He is a world-class right back, especially when going forward and attacking. Whereas Mukiele, on the other hand, might be leaving the club in the upcoming window. He wasn't getting the sufficient game time that he wanted for his career, so he forced through a loan move to Bayer Leverkusen in the January window. Now I'm not too sure if that loan move had an obligation or an option to buy, but gauging by the fact that Luis Enrique was quite happy to let him leave, I don't think that the French fullback has a future in Luis Enrique's plans. And as for Zagu, he is a competent up-and-coming right back that could be a very decent backup option. Now in terms of the central midfielders, I am going to include Mascado in this, even though he is a defensive midfielder, but I will include him in the central midfield conversation. Now he is currently out on loan, but he will be coming back in the summer window and he will be incorporated into the first team as one of the young prospects that will be getting fringe minutes in the upcoming season, just like with what we saw with Mayulu and a few other young players that have featured so far for Luis Enrique this season. In terms of the core midfielders, Fabian Ruiz has had a very good season under Luis Enrique this year. He's really been able to establish himself and lock down the left central midfield area for himself. Now there were reports stating that the Spanish midfielder could depart PSG, but I don't think that that is the case anymore. Whereas for both Renato Sanchez as well as Soler, their futures definitely lie away from the club. Now if I'm not mistaken, both the deals with West Ham as well as Benfica don't include a buy option, so they will be returning to PSG in the summer window, where they'll inevitably be sold in the summer window. As for Vitinha, Zaire Emery as well as João Neves, these are three players alongside Fabian Ruiz and even Mayulu that are key fundamentals to Luis Enrique's system and are vitally important. So these are three players that I don't see exiting at all. For Eamon Kari, he is another young prospect that has a bright future ahead of him. However, it's looking likely that it won't be with PSG. He has been linked with a few moves to clubs around Europe, one being Everton and another being Saint-Etienne. So the young Frenchman could either be sold in the summer or released on a free transfer where he can go and make his own decisions from then on out. Now just looking at the squad construction, and you would think that Luis Enrique and the PSG board have gone mad, as they've got a whole host of wide options. There's Mbaya, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Due, Asensio, Dembele and Lee Kangin, all of which are fantastic wide players that have also been reshifted into various different positions this season, whether it's central midfield or even playing as the striker down the middle, in Dembele's case more so as the false nine, and he's done very well in that area, to the point where he could be on for a Ballon d'Or this season, which would be incredibly remarkable for the player and his career. Now Lee Kangin is a weird one, because Enrique does want to keep him, but he has also been linked with various moves to Premier League clubs, Arsenal being one of them, Manchester United being another, and he could be a very good player for those teams. But again, it could be one of those situations where PSG aren't really looking to sell the player, but if there is a good enough offer, they will look to finalize a deal to get the player out the club. As for Asensio, I do think that he will be in new colours come the start of next season, as he was loaned out to Aston Villa in the January window and he's done very well for them. So well that he has attracted a lot of interest from various Premier League teams, including a potential stay at Aston Villa. So he does have admirers, and I do think that PSG will look to cash in on him. And then there's Due Barcola and Kvaratskhelia, who have a very important future with this club. Since joining in January, Kvaratskhelia has been a revelation down the left-hand side, or even down the right when he's been swapped over. In terms of Barcola, he has tailed off at the back end of the season, but he's also had a very, very good campaign, especially at the start. And I mean, the same can also be said for Desiree Doué, who in my opinion in a few years' time can also be involved in the Ballon d'Or conversations. And the last area of the team is the striker position, an area that Luis Enrique is quite happy to function without. There's Randall Kolo Muani, who shockingly has been shipped out on loan to Juventus because he doesn't really fit into how Luis Enrique wants his side playing. And if you just look at the way that Randall Kolo Muani functions and plays, you wouldn't really say that, but clearly there is something off about the connection between himself and Luis Enrique, to the point where Enrique has quite happily allowed him to leave on a loan, with the potential of a permanent move in the upcoming transfer window. And the same can be said for Gonçalo Ramos, who most likely will be leaving in the upcoming window. He's also another player that doesn't really fit into Luis Enrique's overall style of play, but in my personal opinion, I always think it's important to try and have a different sort of player off the bench. Yes, you can have a Dembele or a Ligue hang in, or possibly a Desiree Doué popping up in that false 9 role, but if they aren't working out, bringing a player like a Gonçalo Ramos off the bench, who is more of a physical target man, could definitely affect the game in favor of the team. But clearly Luis Enrique doesn't agree, and he may want to bring in a different player that suits his system a lot better. And lastly, we will round off the video with potential transfers that you can make for your PSG career mode. Now, these are players that have been linked with a move to the club in real life, as well as 1 or 2 options that I think would just fit into Luis Enrique's overall tactical system. Now, I have put down on the shortlist Lucas Chevalier, who is heavily admired by Luis Enrique, as well as the PSG board. So if there is the off chance that Donnarumma does get sold, I think that he would be the #1 option that PSG would go inside. In terms of his overall playstyle, it definitely aligns with Luis Enrique. The ability to have a very good on-the-ball goalkeeper that can easily distribute possession out from the back and help create and build the attacking rhythm for the team. Now, there are 3 centre-back options that I have put down, the first being Dayot Upamecano, the second being Ibrahima Konate, and the third being Mario Giglia. Now, all 3 of these players are fantastic options, and with the way that PSG have been approaching their transfer targets over the last couple of seasons, they are mainly looking to target French players. And of course, Upamecano as well as Ibrahima Konate have been heavily linked with a move to PSG. It might not happen this summer, but possibly in the summer after, or maybe in 3 or 4 seasons time. Upamecano and Bayern have stalled on their negotiations for a contract renewal, and that could be an easy target for PSG to look at and recruit him to the club. And I mean, the same can also be said for Konate, whose deal will expire at the end of next season. So effectively in the summer window, he will have 12 months left with his deal at Liverpool, again creating an opportunity in the transfer market for PSG to exploit. As for Mario Giglia, he's been very good this season for Lazio, and there are numerous clubs that are linked with a move for the Spanish centre-back. Now, there are 2 Lyon wingers that I have put down on the transfer shortlist, the first being Ryan Cherki and the second being Malik Fofana. Now, these 2 players have been absolutely outstanding for Lyon, but as we've seen with previous transfers of Bradley Barcola, PSG are quite happy to go to Lyon and take their best prospects, and Malik Fofana and Ryan Cherki both represent that. Now, personally, I believe that Ryan Cherki would be the player that would make the move, as he's got so much talent, it just makes all the sense in the world to recruit him to PSG. It's a hand-in-glove fit for what the Paris club have been able to do over the last 3 seasons in recruiting the best young French talents. And he could be deployed down the left, the right, or through the middle as a false 9, and definitely grow and develop in a club that will help him reach his potential. As for the young Franco Mastantuono, he too has been linked with a massive move to Paris Saint-Germain, but then again, he's also been linked to Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, Arsenal, Manchester City specifically. So I'm not exactly sure if it's just random transfer talk trying to get him the best move possible, or if a club like Paris Saint-Germain would definitely be interested in trying to sign a player like this. He is a fantastic talent and does have a very bright future ahead of him, and I think that if he is interested in a move to Paris, it would be a move that would entice the board to pay the release clause and bring him over to France. And then there's Christopher Nkunku, a player who can be deployed out wide on the left, down the middle as a false 9, or even in a number 10 position. We have seen every now and then when a Desiree Doué or a Lee Kangin has been deployed in the midfield, they've somewhat taken up that number 10 role, which could be perfect perfect for a player like Nkunku. Now, he will definitely be leaving Chelsea in the summer window, and PSG were interested in a move for him last summer as well as in January. However, the finances behind the entire deal and the amount of money that Chelsea were demanding made the club back off a bit. But all in all, I do think that if they do get this deal done, he would definitely complement the various players in their attacking front line and be a fantastic rotational option for the squad. And the last player on the list is Rodrigo from Real Madrid, who is heavily touted to be leaving the Spanish capital in the upcoming transfer window. And he too is another player that I think could definitely work out in a Luis Enrique system, down the left, the right, through the middle potentially. He just fits in that very free-flowing fluid front three type system that Luis Enrique is currently running at PSG. It wouldn't be a cheap deal by any means. You're probably looking at like 100 million or so, but just like with Kvaratskhelia, it could be a transfer market opportunity that the French club could capitalize on and bring in a world-class talent to their front line. The amount of combinations that you could see in the PSG front line next season if they were to get a player like Rodrigo in it, you could have Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Rodrigo, you could have Due Rodrigo and Lee Kang-in. The combinations are endless, and with a player like this, it just seems like a no-brainer opportunity. And there we go, people. That is how you can start a realistic Paris Saint-Germain career mode with Luis Enrique in FC25. I do hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you don't mind smashing that like button down below, whilst also subscribing if you are new to the channel. And if you would like to see some extra content, specifically on the weekends, I have recently started the Brom Squad Gaming Patreon, where I go and make extra content like retro tactics and all that good stuff. So the link for that will be down below in the description, and next to that you will also see the link for the Brom Squad Gaming Discord server, where we chat everything IRL football and have fantastic discussions on that platform. So if you would be interested in something like that, it will be for free, don't you worry. I would highly advise that you guys get involved with the various conversations that we do have. Anyways, until the next time, until the next one, I do hope you have a smashing goddamn day, and I'm out of here. Peace.